Welcome back to Ami's house.
Ami's house.
Ami's house. Oh,
I like that.
There you go. A little 90s. Sounds a little 90s theme song.
Almost like Full House.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what we wanted.
Ami's house. Very good.
Twins.
Ladies and
Can we
gentlemen.
get the twins involved?
If you have a connection. We got a very, very special guest here. Incredible artist, musician, and more recently, a friend and colleague. Matisyahu is in the studio today. And I would say, actually, of all identities to identify as currently, I think I speak for myself, but I wonder if you'd relate to this. Jew has been the thing that has resonated with me. I say it seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like almost nothing else at the moment
Matters.
Yeah.
but a Jew.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
the world has made us feel that way and
Yeah.
has summoned those circuits.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
feeling that?
The pintala yid, as they say, has been squeezed. Yeah, it feels that way. Absolutely. Yeah, you know, when I as you know, with me, like when I started out, being Jewish was the central core component of who Matisyahu was, and God also. Let's not leave God out of the picture. God and being Jewish, and over the years, it became less central to me. It became less important to me. It always stayed important to me. It always was the sort of like. It's like when you go to a voice teacher, they say like they built your voice. You know, it's my whole philosophical and huge outlook on the world is built there, and it became still like a huge place from where I drew inspiration, where I wrote song lyrics and all of that from. But it became more and more distant, and has been becoming more and more distant. And there's always times when it's like comes back into the picture, and it's like more and more relevant to me, and then sometimes where it's less and less relevant. And right now, it's come back full force, just smacked me in the face. I put on tefillin this morning. I literally came back from walking the dog and said to my wife, I'm like, I think I'm gonna shave my head, keep my payas, and grow my beard back, and start wearing a yarmulke. Just because, like, when I started doing that, it was like I wanted. And she was like, no fucking way.
That's itchy. I
I'm
can't
like,
handle
look, there's
it.
some good pictures from that time. She's like, but not now.
Nothing summons the call to be to return to that foundation that you talk about than the call for our destruction. It's a very dark thought.
It's crazy.
But what it does,
So true.
ironically, for the people who hate Jews, is you unite us all. So beware when you start storming the streets calling for the annihilation of the state and the people.
It does something weird to us.
It
It
does.
does. And it happened to me during 9/11.
Yeah.
That's when I became religious.
And you joined the American Army and went to Iraq.
No, but I became from that.
Right.
That's when I started like really searching out Judaism.
You know what I think?
And now it's like happened to me again in a way.
One of these the events that have occurred from October 7th and on, it illuminates a sort of sense of clarity where you have forces of light and forces of darkness.
Yeah.
And it's very hard in the last couple of weeks, last month, to say anything but sincerity. It's been very hard to be insincere. You know how usually in a peacetime, when you get comfortable, you say things that are lightness and darkness. It sounds cheesy. It sounds like hyperbole. It sounds like, what are you talking about? It sounds fluffy. But since then, there's been this moment where it's been impossible to say something insincere, you know, as a Jew. And the snag in me was always like, comfortable, and it's like, yeah, listen, I'm observant. I don't know how religious I am, but I'm observant. I go through the motions. But this has summoned a sense of calling, mission, unity in our people that I haven't felt maybe ever.
Ever. It's never happened to us. I mean, at this much in our generation.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with it for some time now. Just in the circles that I run in, it's not necessarily ever been popular to be Israeli or to like, be pro-Israel,
Right.
you know? And so, like, with the BDS, when they took me off that festival, and these guys made a pyramid of people with signs that say Matisyahu on it to try to block, like,
How long ago was that?
That was
Was that 2016 or 14?
something like that.
At the festival, I saw
like that.
clips. I never really knew the whole story. Can you talk about that? Because you've been on this front line as an artist in this world for a while.
I hadn't heard about that either.
Yeah. But even before that, and I remember getting crazy about it. Like
Matisyahu. It's more creative than some of the others.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Over time. So I feel like I'm somewhat prepared for this as it's come around this time. And some of my friends or people are like, "Can you believe this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can actually."
You've had the scars and the armor to prove
We've
it.
been really lucky. Our generation has been like super lucky, and I've always known that. I've always thought about that. Like, wow, the Jews in today's day and age are like very different than the Jews of these different eras, just by way of the fact that like we haven't had that opposition.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, like, we've all grown up with our grandparents and like, or not, if not your grandparents, someone being like, anti-Semitism's real, things can change in a second. I think my attitude was always like that's not us though.
Yeah, not
that's
in America.
You. That's not us. And now I think like they were like preparing us, and like they're preparing us like to recognize it when we see it, and to know how bad it could get.
That's the whole never again thing. That's the whole thing that we've been trained. Yeah,
You got American grandparents, right?
Yeah, so my
He's got
family,
no
my family's been
street
here for generations. I had none of that growing up.
So it was really a talking point for you.
Especially when I heard it, I really dismissed it. And now I feel like lucky that we have the education to be like it's just it gets worse and worse.
It was not only the event in Israel that took place, the massacre, but then you see in real time this excusing of it, contextualizing it, not amongst like other people who were morally depraved supposedly, but in universities, in the intellectual circles. There's something so ridiculous only intellectuals can believe them, and you begin to realize, oh my God. In a moment I had this epiphany of like this like awakening of, as a grandchild of Holocaust survivors on all sides, I always had the burning question, like, but how did it really happen?
Yeah, how did you...
You didn't live in this, like, barbarian times.
Right.
It was sophisticated, educated people. Like, how did this gradually happen? And I follow a lot of Jordan Peterson stuff, and he's always like, things get bad one step at a time,
Yeah.
So I think there's been a push in the Overton window of what you can say about Jews.
Yeah.
And, like, the Kanye stuff kind of
opens
up.
Yeah, it's been leading in the direction, a little bit.
Yeah, but then you see how politics and the extension of like really depraved ideas not only allow, it takes barbarians and monsters to do what Hamas did, but it takes intellectuals with the most depraved ideas to excuse it and contextualize it and allow for those things to continue. It's like it takes people to believe that what they're believing is virtuous, ripping down posters of kidnapped kids. They don't think they're evil. They think that what they're doing is virtuous. That's how atrocities happen. I'm like, question answered.
Yeah.
Like, when that happened, it was like question answer.
Yeah.
This is how Holocaust happened. And we saw a Holocaust happen, a Holocaust denial, and a Holocaust celebration all happening in real time. I'm like, the world is upside down.
Yeah. And our genes, I feel like, are just firing. Like we're here because someone already went through this and survived. And now, and we're like, we know how to handle this.
Yeah. I mean, I growing up not religious, and I went to Hebrew school and stuff, and my parents instilled like sense that we were Jewish. But the two moments that I really affected me deeply, and I think this is true for every Jewish kid, every kid who like is bar mitzvahed and has the most reform Jewish background, the most little to do with Judaism. You take that kid into a Holocaust museum when he's like 10, 12 years old, it's going to have an impact on him, like a deep impact. And then going to Israel and seeing this whole nation of Jews. And it's not just Jews how you're used to seeing them in whatever town you grew up in, where the Jew is like the lawyer, the doctor, or there's a Jewish community or whatever. Jews are everywhere. Jews are everything. Those two things affected my like sense of being Jewish like deeply. And I think with what's going on now, can you imagine how confusing it is for Jews who aren't raised with like a strong Jewish identity, and they're just like, there's a part of them inside that's like, I'm Jewish and I have to, and then there's this other part like, are we wrong? What have we done? Well, this whole confusing situation where they're like, maybe it's not good to be Jewish. Maybe I should be quiet about it.
Or try to appease
or
the
even
haters.
Feel bad about being
appease
Jewish.
The haters, like, I'm with you. Hate me. Yeah, I'm not with...
Or for real, like actually really feel bad about being a Jew.
It's weird. I think that one of the things what motivated me to like post on Instagram about this topic, when historically, like my stuff is all entertainment and shtick and fun, and I don't really cover politics, not because I'm like shying away from it in my personal life or whatever, I felt like this was, a platform to entertain. But then in the case of like the world being morally sick and confused about good and evil, like art, expression, comedy, those days are numbered. In a world that doesn't value those things and doesn't value real human life and human experience, like you can't really post about anything until that stuff is sorted out.
I think we all had, like, as artists or whatever, we all had like a moment where this shit happened, and then we were all like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I had a show that night in Vegas at a reggae festival, and my son was in Israel, hadn't heard from him. It was Shabbos. And I like go backstage at the reggae festival, and it's all the guys I know, all the different reggae bands that I play these festivals with.
How's the reggae community been about that? Because Zion is so strong. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, well,
it's curious.
Yeah, and
the Israel connection.
I've never heard anyone say reggae community before.
The festival community, the people in this world that talk about the almost the Zion connection.
I want to hear about that too.
The reggae community. How's the reggae community?
It's a very good point that should be brought up that we could talk about. And like Rasta and Zion and Judaism,
and like
where all that intersects.
And does the Black Israelite thing intersect with that at all either?
I'm sure it does. I don't know that much.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. But
yeah, I had a show.
Yeah, I was there, and I was just like, what do I do? And I was like, I freaking hope someone brings an Israeli flag. Someone did. I called them up. I brought the flag out on stage, and I was like, I immediately went back into this version of this zealot Matisyahu, like the Hasmonean,
of course.
And when I was on stage, and it was like, all I want to do is fucking like. It was like how I felt when I was at the BDS, and it was like how I felt when I very first started performing, and it was like this feeling of like just
the warrior closet. You open it back up and put the armor back on
really
and went
like
to battle.
No shame. Like this is fully who I am, who we are, and then I start singing the songs. I'm like, all my songs are relevant.
Did you change the set list, or they just took on your
I know guys from like party bands like 311 who are now sober. And I always imagine like, they have to go back and sing those songs about getting fucked up. I'm like, every Matisyahu song in the entire catalog I could sing today, and it's real. And especially with what's going on, it's like the lyrics are so tied to this sort of like overarching Jewish experience that we're now like really facing. So
anthem
it feels
for the nation. Every one of your songs, they have so much like resonant ideas of calling almost all of us to be proud. There's such a pride in it.
Yeah.
Even with Fireproof, which was an
but
even with that, I listen to that and I'm like, oh my God, everything that's personal is universal. Everything that's universal is personal.
Which is like to your point that like if you had just left my ass alone, I'm basically retired in New Jersey, making songs about my personal life, about my wife, my kids, and there's Jewish references and stuff like that, right? But now.
You can take Matis out of Crown Heights, but you can't take Crown Heights out of Matis. It's like the foundation is summoned. It's like this crazy
in
thing.
all of us. And that's the miracle of Israel. That's the only way that Israel is in existence, because we all feel that. And like if we feel that here as artists, imagine soldiers in Israel and people growing up in it, like they feel that, and obviously in a huge way. So I mean that. It's kind of
we just triggered the Free
crazy.
Palestine section on this episode. Come at us, baby! But 100%, it's so powerful, right?
Yeah, I've been
it does. It's like the only time Jews, because it's what happens every single time. It's like we get mixed into the world. We do well. Everything's going on. We try to hold on to our beliefs and to our Judaism, but all the world is happening, and it's happening for generations and generations. And then sooner or later, someone is like, nah, fuck you. We're coming after you. And now it's like, oh yeah.
The scapegoat cycle.
Oh yeah, here we go again.
Scapegoat cycle.
Even though we haven't fully experienced it, we know it. We're like, here we go. Here we go. It's go time, baby. This is where we come together. This is where
and I think that there's these people out there, like you said, like how to reach people who are confused about this, are now shaken as Jews, but also adjacent to Jews, people removed from the situation who've kind of been co-opted by the perversion of language on the far left, let's say, because of the universities talking about this. They sort of say, well, wait, where's the good, where's the bad here? First of all, if you woke up on October 8th after October 7th and you don't know where the good and the bad is, you're morally broken. Your compass is broken. But I will say this. After a few days to settle down, when you're trying to figure yourself out, one of the reasons I put out stuff was like, I try to offer some moral clarity on this, not just for people who are removed from this, not just people who who hate me anyway about this issue, who hate Israel. It's for people who want to sympathize with Israel. They just don't know how to articulate it in a way that feels like with conviction. And so you have to put those ideas out. And I figure I could point fingers at people not talking about it, or just try to talk about it myself.
But yeah, I had that moment too where I was like, also after the show, I was like, okay, we have a song coming out. We promote the song. You know, we're going to do this, that. And we have to do promo, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, no, we're not doing any of that. Like, all we're doing is talking about Israel right now. And if I have a song coming out, it's about Israel right now. And thank God, like, my team is on board with that. They're like, my manager's a South African Jew. But he's not religious, you know what I'm saying? But and my other team, they're not Jewish, the other team members, but they all like, they support it. They support me in my decision.
Did you feel in like the scene that you were
it would have been hard
night?
Though, for example, if I had a manager who was either not Jewish or not, Jewish.
Right. Did you
and would have been like, Matis, this is not good for your career, this, that, and the other thing. That would have been like, I would have felt really alone. I'd have been like, I got to fire my manager. Now I'm really alone. I have to fire my manager.
In the fellow artists that you, in like that night of the show when you were talking to people, did you feel sympathy from people? Did you feel understand? What was or was it awkward?
It was like, I think half the people didn't know what happened or were confused about what happened. People, like at that point, the day that it happened, if they did hear about it, they were sympathetic. There were certainly like, I didn't.
Doesn't take long for things.
But no,
change,
that whole scene is like, I mean, there was like the headlining, a big artist that was performing who's Jewish, Persian. I don't want to get too, he's a Jew, and I right away got there and I was like, who else is Jewish that's at this festival? And I was like, let's right now go play a version of Jerusalem acoustic and send it. And his, I heard back from his, and this is someone I'm friends with, I'm close with, I know a long time. Like, oh, he doesn't speak on Israel. The day of October 7th, on that Saturday.
You see, that is the victory of the narrative of the collapse of the defense of Israel in the world. Of like, it's just too confusing.
And our scene, definitely in our reggae scene for sure. There's this confusion of like, reggae music is the music of the oppressed people. The Palestinians are the oppressed people. Even if you look at like the way they dress compared to the way we dress, like they look like freedom fighters, right? They have the thing, they have the colors, the black, red, and green. They have the, like, if you're just like a bystander who has nothing to do with it and you're just looking at it, you're just like, oh, like, who's the cooler? They're the bully. We're the bullied, right?
All you gotta do is look at a map to prove that. Like, but I hear you. Like, they're just looking at the optics.
No, but they're just looking at the optics of it, and they're just like, oh, yeah, the Free Palestine, like Rastafari. That's what I'm thinking most of them are thinking. There's probably a small percentage of them that, like, realize that the whole entire music that they listen to is fucking taken from the Old Testament. Like, we provided it.
Yeah.
The Jews.
It's not only that they had. It's not only not true. It's anti-true. It's the inversion.
It's the opposite.
It's the complete perversion and inversion of the truth of the underdog.
But then you'll have real Rastas that will get it. Like, there was a time I performed. I haven't told you this story, but I performed in a place all Rastas, not like white Rastas, like all from the islands, Caribbean. I got up full, early days, beard, sang. People loved it, and this one fucking bitch, like she was just like, she was just, what does he know about Haile Selassie and this, and like make this whole scene. Finally, this like elder Rasta comes out like with a stick, and he's like, he's just like, she's like, what does he know from Selassie? He's like, he knows from King David.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary. They mentioned you in this reggae documentary. They were like, more exaltation to him, more exaltation to him. What a great phrase. More exaltation to him. They were talking about you. It was a Bob Marley documentary. I'm sure you saw it. It was like, more exaltation to him. And like, someone was trying to make us think. And he said, that's good stuff.
Do you stay friends with that guy who wouldn't perform with you? Can you be friends with him again?
No, I mean, like I've unfollowed and blocked friends, and musicians that I've played with, who I love playing with. I mean, like all kinds of people. Like I have no room in my sphere. I love dropping people. I fucking love cleaning house. I love taking a shit.
Canceling plans is a great feeling.
Like when it comes down to it, now we know like who's who will have our back when it comes down to it, and who won't. And I have no time for anyone who won't.
And I think it's important to make it.
But there is a confusion that needs to be like mentioned, and there is like this confusion as to who we are, where we come from, you know. And I think that the majority of people, they live their life like they play on these like emotions, like as if it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, like revenge, right? Like you love seeing the slave master get beat down in that movie where he like
Django,
torments all. So I think that's what people think. They literally like see the thing and
So
they're
as
just
vicious
like
as it gets,
they're like they've
by
been,
any means
they've been
necessary.
occupying and you know, throwing these people out of their land and this is what they get. You know what I mean? That's how people feel. This is what they get. And they have no sense of the truth.
Right.
Of who we are, where we come from, and our story.
I think
Jewish story.
Jews are also missing that sense. A lot of Jews,
Oh,
where
yeah.
we come from.
Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
and being able to morally stand by Israel and also say that, like, to be one-sided is not to be wrong. When the rapist comes and rapes the victim and you take the side of the victim, it's not wrong. It is
we've
one-sided,
already
but it's
seen-
not wrong. And people think like, I want to just feel
We've
for
seen
everybody.
that happen like in our culture, our whole lives. Like that's been what everything's been working towards. It's like this opposition to black and white. There's opposition to good and bad. And honestly, there's like mad truth to that. Most things, like even Kabbalistically, is a mix of the spheres. Like
Awash with
in
gray.
this world of Tikkun is a blend. It's not the world of Tohu where everything is clear cut. You know, the bad guy can be good. Even the movies we watch, right?
It's
like
complex.
everything is the complexity of things. So people are, but people are they feel that therefore there can't be a black and white. They can't, but that's not true. You can have both. I think
when we're talking about principles, when we're talking about intention, I mean, the conversation around ethics and morality kind of exists above the human beings that strive to live to certain ideals. In the world of ideas, in the world of ideals, in the world of ethics, you have to have strong principles of black and white.
Sure.
And the way we exist in that framework is gray, because good people can do bad things and bad people can do good things. But we have to evaluate the behavior and the context and the intention behind things. You know, not just the surface optics of something, because war is a terrible thing to witness. But the question is, be very clear over who is the aggressor and who is the defender. There's a very big difference between murder and self-defense, even though in the end result can be the same, where somebody dies. It's a very big difference when you're defending yourself against an aggressor, and you know, aggression and retaliation, murder and self-defense, make all the moral difference when evaluating something. So, you know, one thing I've been struggling with lately in this whole thing is like this event does show you like the difference between your opponents and your enemies. You know, like the barbarians, the people doing this, the Hamas people coming in. I don't want to dialogue with anyone close to that or involved in that. There's no dialogue that can redeem that. We need to fight them. Then there's sort of people go one down from that who are confused about it. And there's a part of me that's frankly not patient either. Like, we're in self-defense mode. I'm not interested in convincing you of anything. You shouldn't need convincing. But if you are convincible, and if there is something we can say that can bring those people in to see the truth about this issue, at what point is it worth doing that? You know, like, I feel like there's a hierarchy, right? We have to defend ourselves. Right. That's what we're in right now. So I don't really care if you don't understand why we need to.
Yes.
At the same time, it can be beneficial to reach out and engage with people we disagree with and not unfollow and not unblock. I mean, for people celebrating October 7th as a glorious day, done. It's over. You want my death and destruction? We can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But where do you draw the line? Like, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't disagree about you blocking.
Yeah, I sent someone to an artist. I sent something to an artist.
Yeah.
And then he wrote back something that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. And then right away was like, let's talk.
Yeah.
We spoke on the phone. It was cool. Mm-hmm. You know, but that's not to say that he understands my situation. Right. But we spoke
Did it
on
help?
the phone.
Did you feel like it was constructive?
After that, I stopped doing it.
I did the same thing.
Anyone who wants to talk to me about it, go fuck yourself. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
Right. People trying to kill us. Not interested.
Not interested. If you don't get it, I'm not fucking interested.
Right.
Yeah, everyone has the same facts. Everyone has the same resources. If they haven't come to a conclusion at this point, I'm also like, you're not going to say anything to convince them otherwise.
Or if you're going to watch
like,
what happened on October 7th and then just make an opinion without really, really knowing, or just say some shit for whatever reason because, you know, it's time to say something. The people who aren't speaking are kind of being like looked at as like whack. So we have to say, okay, now what am I going to say? Okay, how can I say something that's somewhere down the middle where I'll get away with both? But at the end of the day, everyone is like, free Palestine. They'll say their whole shtick. Like Kid Cudi did this.
Yes.
He's my favorite artist of all time. One of I don't follow him anymore. I'm not listening to his shit anymore. But like he said, this whole shtick, you know, my brothers, my Jewish sisters, this, that, the other thing.
But like genocide.
And then free Palestine. Like, you don't realize that these motherfuckers don't want to be run by like Hamas. You know what happens if you go to Palestine? Any of these people.
Yeah. And so like what I think is like the problem.
But when you go to Israel, you're celebrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're the bad guys here?
Yeah.
Are you usually the guy who sees both sides? Or are you
Both sides of what?
of any debate,
situation?
any situation? Are you usually like I'm in the middle and I can
What's
hear what
the
you're saying and I hear what you're saying?
What's your temperament, you mean? Temperamentally? How do you approach
It's
it?
an interesting question.
Because you're a creative person, you're an artist, you're not necessarily...
I do believe heavily like in perspective, you know, in a person's perspective. But I also am divorced, so I know that there's a difference between right and wrong and good and evil. You know what I'm saying? Like I know like when some people's perspective can be that fucking twisted,
Right.
and it like hurts your life. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
Yeah, like we can disagree up to a certain point, but if it stops at, well, you can't exist, well, then we have nothing
no,
to
I've
talk
dealt
about.
with in a very close way people who are sick.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
There's
and
no
you
resolution.
can try every aspect of like how to convince them or how to talk to them, and there's just a wall. So like, so I know that exists. But in terms of like most conversations, certain things, but not other things.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
This
How
is
about
like,
you?
Because this is the first thing really where I'm like, not following the news I usually follow, not follow the people I usually follow. I'm fully on one side. Even Israel 6 weeks ago, I was here, the one saying like, you can hear what the Palestinians are saying, can you? Yeah. No, I might not agree with them, but you can at least hear what they're saying. And now I'm fully on like one side of like,
It's not even,
and
a
that's new
sides
for
thing.
me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there is a reality, there's a truth.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And like we don't even, no one here is talking to anybody in Palestine really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's hear from those people when they feel safe, when they feel like they can say what they really want to say without being beheaded or whatever. Like let's hear. Do you want to live under the Hamas regime? Is that the life you want to live? Like, and a lot of people are afraid of what's going on in America.
Yeah.
And like my wife, I'm telling people like, yeah, there's going to be some bad shit that's going to happen. There's no question. But guess what? Arabs like their lives in America. They like, you know.
In Israel too.
And people like their lives in democratic societies. They're not willing to go to, most people, unless they're sick, they're not willing to go to jail for the rest of their life. There are rules here. There are laws. You'll be caught. You know what I mean? You're not going to get away with it for the most part.
It just happened in L.A.
Yeah,
that person got arrested.
Yeah, but he did. Did he actually get
They
brought up?
said
let
he's
him
being
go?
investigated for manslaughter and a hate crime.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
was
both.
killed in the
Yeah,
protest.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
you can't. You can't
Which
throw
was
a
nice.
you can't throw
but Matis,
something at someone's head.
Yeah. Where I'm still
You know?
conflicted on like the engagement part of it, I'm with
Yeah.
you. It's like I feel completely on one side. The battleground, though,
I hear you.
Why people will in the end hashtag Free Palestine is that the people who are willing to engage are winning, and they have a monopoly on the truth.
Yeah.
And so
have to.
if their
We have
intentions
to
are good,
engage,
but if their intentions are good, but coming from a place that's ignorant, ignorance is much more fixable than hate.
Yeah, that's true.
So if they're empaths and they just see suffering of war, Dave Matthews, love Dave Matthews. I've been a fan for years. He gets up
Dave
there and he
Matthews.
says, and he got him in a speech and he's like, stop dropping bombs on people. The pacifism, I don't think people realize that pure pacifism is immoral because the choice is between self-defense and suicide for Israel and for Jews in this scenario. Yeah. So I understand just being a feeling person and seeing war and death and destruction and just not wanting to look evil in the eye.
Yeah.
Some truths, you know when you hear a melody,
so
good that it
just
hurts?
stop bombing.
Yeah. But you know when you hear something so true, an idea, a melody, something, there's a pain to it.
Yeah.
There's a pain to the truth. The evil that we saw, the unapologized, explicit evil we saw on October 7th, for some of us, temperamentally, we see it and we know that has to end. We have to fight it. It has to be eliminated. If you want peace amongst good people, you have to eliminate those who don't want peace. It's very simple.
Right.
But for some people, temperamentally,
You
they
like
see it and they go, "Ugh, it's too bright. It's too dark.
Right.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
I can't accept that people really do this. There must be an external. This is like a liberal left. This is a very leftist idea that all human
Something
behavior,
must have created that.
All human behavior is motivated by these external factors. No one is really accountable for anything. It's the same people who made excuses for BLM riots destroying property all over this country. They excused behavior because it must be externalized. And I can't look at it.
Yeah.
Free Palestine. You must look at it. Stop the suffering.
It's a very white way of being.
Ceasefire.
It's a very like
white guilt, Jewish
upper
guilt.
middle class
and to the
way of
extent
being.
that people are and it goes the other way too.
For
when
people that haven't dealt with with real struggle and shit, they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, so they don't want to look. And the same thing when they see prosperous
and they'll
nations,
try to intellectualize it.
People who have things, it must be out of exploitation. It must be that these people acquired things because out of wrongdoing.
Yeah.
That's how they're viewing the world through this lens.
Yeah.
So they want to feel, they want to be right and virtuous, and so they just see suffering and they can't understand what's the context of what's happening. So
and
I don't know. Do we abandon?
For the Jew who's connected, who's experienced, who also comes from that place, it's like that, but with this other tinge that 60, 80 years ago, a third of our people were fucking murdered.
Yeah.
So even though, you know what I mean, that's why, it's us.
Yes.
But at the same time, we all have that sense that like this tragedy, some kind of super tragedy could happen at any moment.
Yes.
And we also understand the peace we enjoy came through war.
Yes.
Because of World War II, none of us have experienced war.
We didn't have a ceasefire with the Nazi regime and say like, okay, we made it work.
Right.
No, they were vanished, and then we had to sort of completely rebuild the values and ideas of Europe in order to coexist.
And Israel hunted them down one by one.
Boom.
Over the course of like how many years, right?
Oh yeah.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
And I just think for some people, the idea of hunting people down who are evil, like just hearing that kind of like the fighting spirit of self-defense, which is moral, and I stand behind. Some people have trouble just digesting that is the world we live in. Evil exists, and you have to fight.
Yeah. On that note, like that feeling we get, we're like, they hunted them down. Part of me feels like instead of engaging, just sort of acting like royal almost. Like we don't have to engage, we don't have to explain ourselves. Like we have dignity, and we know we're right.
Yeah.
Like almost like the world might respond to that better.
Yes.
Well,
Instead of getting into the muck with everyone.
Ways.
Yeah.
It could either be like, that is true. There's a part of you that's just like, I'm not going to bring myself down to this level of like, there's a Pirkei Avos about like rolling around in the dirt with someone, right? And you're going to get muddy if you roll around with someone in the dirt. Like, if you try to even come down to that level to explain, like, why should you even have to? Yeah.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's like, if we don't, look at what we're facing.
Yeah. It's a hard thing. Can you do it at the same time? I know what you're saying. There's a part of that's like, okay, you hate Israel? Okay, we're gonna do what we need to do. Yeah. Okay, you think what you think.
Yeah, exactly.
F around and find out. You think what you think. We're gonna defend our children. We're gonna defend our citizens. We're gonna defend our people. You think what you think, and you be wrong.
Yeah.
And then I think, we're gonna do what we need to do. And for all of you who hate us. But maybe there's a piece of you. We can fight for.
There has to be.
There is. I'm saying, so can we fight for you to come with us and join in the solidarity? How can we do that? It's a battleground of
biblically. It's like the people who left with the Jews when they left Egypt. There's always that portion. But when we were slaves, they were probably kicking us in the face or whatever.
We're coming.
Yeah.
My name is Morty too. Morty Schwartzberg. Yeah, take me too.
So there's always that. You feel like there's that group of people who are just going to sway with whoever's winning, essentially.
Who are going to sway with whoever's winning, right?
Yeah, whoever is considered, and whatever winning means to you and wherever you exist. You know what I mean?
But the question is, don't you want people who in the battleground? There's the physical battleground, and then there's the battleground of ideas, by which all these things extend.
Right.
So like the worst ideas extend to the worst atrocities. So if with better ideas for those people, is it mutually beneficial to be fighting on both fronts? I think probably, right? Like it to be fighting on both fronts. But it doesn't mean you compromise any of your security to do so.
Yeah, I wonder how much all the social media, what it all adds up to in the end.
Yeah.
All the sentiment, all the public sentiment and all that.
I spoke to Candace Owens.
Doesn't it all just eat itself in the end and move on to the next thing?
Oh, it depends if Israel is self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If Israel needs America or not is kind of the key.
Right.
And if they do and enough pressure is put on America and America stops doing what they're doing, I honestly don't think Israel will give a fuck. Because I think at this point, Israel will be like, this is our existence. We love you, America. Thank you for your help. And if not, we will handle this shit because we are facing another Holocaust. So in that sense, it probably doesn't fucking matter because Israel's going to do what they're going to do because it's Israel. It's the Jewish people. You know, it's not this is not a game for us.
I'm just like, hey. I want to get a megaphone and say
No, but for real. At the end of the how upset have you been like over the years when you're just like Israel's just America's, you know, they're doing what America wants, or they're listening to America, whatever America says Israel's doing. Something bad enough had to happen where Israel actually is like, you know what, America, please, we want your help, you know, but.
Yeah,
we are gonna fucking destroy these people,
and they're not listening to the ceasefire.
America's not
requests.
capitulating to that.
No, Israel's not. Yeah, America wants them to.
Isn't it a sad state of affairs, though, and a sad state of reality to say it looks like Israel's the only place Jews can really live safely? Like, for the Jews of the diaspora, that's where I think the case to be engaged is like a numbers game. You have to make sure that there's going to be enough allies around you that support these ideas of the same values, of Jewish values of...
For Jews, you know, like a part is like, look what we've done for you. We gave you a God, a Jewish boy named Jesus. We gave you the 10 Commandments.
I thought you meant God, but...
No, we gave you we literally...
That too, I guess, right?
Given you everything.
Right.
And this is how you treat us?
And cell phones and USB ports.
Can you imagine Waze?
Waze. All we want to do in Israel is go to the beach and cure cancer. What's the problem?
Even just from my idea, just from...
Is that okay?
Just
Can we cure the
ideas.
cancer?
The ideas of slavery is not good.
Monotheism?
That comes from us.
Yeah.
Like the most basic human ideas.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, what, this is our thanks?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we lived, all of us together in one country, what that country would be producing? We have half the Nobel Prizes. Is that true?
We still need to keep a presence in Boca Raton, though. I think.
Do we have half the Nobel Prizes?
A lot.
I think we have half.
Half, yeah.
That's a fact.
But you know what it is? To the extent that Jews as a minority are successful, it builds the resentment of the world. It's an amazing
But the
thing.
problem is, the reason why I said that this won't work is because then we'll all be in one place.
Right.
And in a nuclear age, that's a bad thing for the Jews, don't you
Right.
think?
Practically speaking.
We need to be spread out.
Yes, I think to engage with the world.
No, in order to survive.
And not to shy away from it, too.
What if one place gets bombed?
Yeah.
And we're all there?
Yeah, you want to have someone in New York. Thank God. Thank God.
Who would be the couple that would choose?
Shlomo,
to
don't
save?
worry, we have Shlomo in Brooklyn still. He's going to repopulate if this goes
He
on.
will repopulate.
Shlomo, we got like 5 minutes. All right, you got a job to do.
No, but it's funny. There's an economist that I admire a lot, and I've read a lot of his work, Thomas Sowell, and he was asked, I don't know if he was quoting somebody, but somebody asked him, you know, he's done a lot of research on like the Jews of the world and like other minorities who've been successful in the face of discrimination against all odds, and Jews being the Jewish community throughout the ages being an example of a minority that's been successful even in the face of hostilities. Like, what can Jews do to reduce hostility towards them from the outside world? And he said, fail. And I'm like,
That's dope.
it's like that's where it comes from. There's
Yeah,
been
it's
historically this resentment for Jews who are supposed to fail in the face of like a majority around them that's supposed to succeed. And when Jews succeed, the point is that people have expelled them and include other minorities that are successful, not just Jews. And they find that within a few months after expelling them, the economies collapse. And Jews historically have been in fields of work that maybe people don't quite understand, in financial services, in the other things. And they don't realize that they kicked the Jews out and the countries collapse.
I don't buy that though, because even when Jews were poor peasants, people still wanted to kill them.
So that's theological anti-Semitism. One of the sources of like
There's different
different ones.
Different types,
you know, there's different anti-Semitism takes
No, that's
every
the
shape.
old school.
shifts. It
That's
shifts,
just the old
yeah.
school beat the shit out of the peasant.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism.
And there's the Christian anti-Semitism stemming from like replacement
Killing
theology.
Jesus.
Yeah.
There was so many sources. It's funny that the anti-Semitic trope of the Jews is the shapeshifter. It's
Yeah.
really anti-Semitism that is the shapeshifter. It
Yeah,
takes
yeah.
every form
but
imaginable.
I think if Jews failed
crazy.
now, it would shift to that also though. Again,
if they were.
I think it's inherent. I don't think there's a reason people hate
I think
Jews.
there's a human DNA for
I
anti-Semitism.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that.
I do.
Can't deny it.
Really?
I think it's like a virus. It's a virus, yeah, and you can see how it spreads. Also, it's spread like a
But it all
virus in the last
stems
couple of
from
weeks.
some idea. It's not just like a cell.
I don't think it's an
It is
idea
the
that
curse
makes
of being
sense.
Jewish and
I don't
the
think it's
curse
Yeah.
The curse of our people is.
I don't think it's a rational thing.
Right.
As if now, if Israel was like Afghanistan,
Yeah.
they would be like, whatever. It's two poor countries fighting.
They find a way to hate the
They'd
Jews.
find a way. Yeah, that's what
True.
I think.
But yes, I think both things are true. You're saying they find a way. So
Yeah.
it comes from
Yeah.
ideas,
Yeah.
theological, cultural, religious, economic. They find a way.
Right.
Inflation's really bad. Blame the Jews.
Right.
Socialists hate the capitalist Jews. Capitalists
Right.
hate the socialist Jews.
Right.
Yeah.
They find a way.
They find a way.
So how do we fade? Matis, we need some hope. We need some hope. We will be strong. We will be victorious. But
I don't know, man.
Okay.
Or maybe we won't. You know, maybe we won't.
maybe we won't.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Maybe we won't, ladies and
But
gentlemen.
at least we'll be Jewish. You know what? And we will have been sitting here and not been like
Bear witness.
not be afraid and we'll be doing everything that we can to fight against it. You know, so we won't be hiding in attics, and we won't be, you know, we'll be out there until if it comes down to the end of times for the Jews, then we'll go somewhere else.
This is Sparta. It's like the.
We'll talk to our alien partners.
Something. Mars
leave the
has
planet.
great
Oh,
weather.
You want to
Mars
see?
has great
You want
weather.
to see how the world does without the Jews? Can you imagine we all got on a spaceship and went to another planet? What would happen to this world?
Yeah. Who's the
Do
comedian?
you think this world would be better?
Who's the comedian? Gary Shulman? Goldman?
Gary Goma.
He had a great thing I saw years ago. I was watching him at the Cellar, and he was like, "Look, you can hate us, but don't use our stuff, okay? You can walk around crippled with cancer, not using a cell phone, all the things that have come from Jewish Nobel Prize winners. Just walk around crippled, hating the Jews.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
use our stuff. Hate us, but don't use our stuff.
No polio vaccination.
Yeah, nothing. Just exactly. No polio election. Said, I still hate him. Like, yeah. Man, there's so much else we could cover, but this is just like this is. The
I know.
resident
It
issue.
seems to be. We just jumped right in and got right
Jumped
in.
right
There's
in.
nothing else to talk
There's
about
nothing
right
else
now.
to
That's the
talk
truth.
about. So
Well,
like
it's just
reggae. So like you do music. That's like cool.
I know. I see these posts online, and I'm just like, really? That's what you're posting right now?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, how's it affected your music? The songs you've been writing in the last couple of weeks.
I haven't been writing any songs.
Yeah. Because of this.
No. I'm just. I wrote 37 songs between January and May,
Okay.
and so now we're releasing them.
Taking
Yeah.
a okay.
One of them being a song we worked on together, Fireproof, ladies and gentlemen, available on Spotify. No, but in
No,
the way we
really.
talked about how it takes on, I texted you right away. I'm like, dude, Fireproof now,
Weird.
everything takes on
Yeah.
meaning. It's like a sign from the heavens, from Min Hashamayim, from God to connect to the things that you create and manifest in this world.
Yeah.
It's just, it's undeniable. Like some things are, serendipitous, but
Yeah.
I think it's that our power is creativity. And that's,
Yeah.
there's some people, they can volunteer, they can do things,
Yeah.
they can go fight on the front lines.
Right. They can send pizzas.
Yeah.
Some people.
Send it! There are people, guns in hand fighting on the front lines. And then there's, I feel like, the creative battlefield that we're engaged in.
Yeah.
Talking about these ideas, discussing
Yeah.
them, and putting
Well,
out
there's
the
that-
goodness, putting out the light.
The music. That's what, and that's kind of where I went to right away. I was like, what can I do? And I did this little tour with Adam. We did these shows, and those shows felt so powerful for me, in terms of like using the music as a instrument of prayer. The times where I've gotten like, I feel I've felt the most, had the deepest kavanas, with Hashem, and felt the most in tune with a group of people there, have been these special moments during shows where the words and everything is just boom, it just feels, and I feel like that and the empowerment aspect, because the music that I love is hip hop and reggae, and some of it is beautiful, but essentially a lot of what I love is aggressive, and Jews right now are being bullied, and I feel like that my music can provide something, if I can, that will make Jews feel stronger. And that's what Jews have always told me, like seeing you out there and this, that, and the other things empowered me. It made me feel okay to do this, okay to be this, blah, blah, blah. So to me, it's like, that's really what I want to do right now. It's like, and you know what? All these songs that we're releasing are in touch. And on like so many levels, like that song, Fireproof, the second verse, I had a dream. I was lost in Morocco. When Jews existed in Muslim countries.
Can we do it? Just the
Before
verse?
we were thrown out of them, I had a dream I was lost in Morocco, another space and time. I found a place to pray, hide away, pathway to the sky. I was playing games with a tiger till flames from my mama's eyes filled the room, but I was not consumed. Look at my hand, it was water. Broken, but I come back stronger. I was drawn from the river by Pharaoh's daughter. Hey.
Love that.
Do you do music?
Yeah, a little bit. But I will say the catharsis, the healing power, and the galvanizing power of the music. Channeled from
but that idea, even like this dream that I had, this haunting dream of being in this synagogue in somewhere in the Middle East, and being engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
And then looking down, eventually realizing I wasn't burning, looking down at my hand and seeing that it was made out of water. And then thinking right away, well, what's made out of water? What does that have to do with Matt Miller? Moshe Rabbeinu. You know what I mean? Like the aspect of Moshe that every Jew has. That's where we come from. We come from this water that bounds out that fire. And that's very personal to me. But now what's happening is exactly that idea. And they talk about like the continuation of the Jewish people. We talk about like connecting to Moshe, connecting to the water,
to the
fire, the water, all of it. You know what I mean?
I do.
Speaking of fire and water, what's your relationship to Breslov these days? Everything you just sounded very Breslov to me. I'm curious. I
did go in heavy on some Nachman.
Yeah.
In between the years maybe 2008 and 2012.
Okay. All right.
Some might even say the entire Light album is based after the Seven Beggars.
Okay.
All right, now you're talking between the two of you.
Yeah.
We talk music.
But it was a phase. It's not something that's present right
No,
now.
not a phase. Every like phase that I've had has become like a huge
notch on the belt
aspect of, who I am. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That was just for me.
I know.
Sorry.
I love
He's
As much as everyone is. Yeah. I mean, I go to Oman when I
you
can.
Can really,
et cetera.
you can really kind of, you could really, I feel like through the lens of Nachman, what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Kind of like makes a lot of sense, actually.
It's the only thing that keeps me sane.
Everything that happens in his world is madness and just like the falling apart. You know, like but godly, but like this aspect of God
through the descent.
Just the insanity of God and this world. That's like, to me, that's Breslov. Whether it's like Breslovers like dancing, you know, like to music from a van. Or like, you know what I'm saying? Or like Reb Nachman, like digging through the dirt with his fingernails through the Baal Shem Tov's grave, and like when he was like 4 years old, or like his house burning down, or his son dying, or his journey like barefoot through to get to Israel. I mean, he's like, every aspect of like just the absurdity of this world, the insanity of it. To me, that's like Breslov Chassidus.
On that note, when the darkness sort of became upon us, October 7th, from that moment, and it's been like, I think the idea of being difficult to say anything not sincere since then was evident in this conversation.
Yeah.
And when the darkness has like come upon us, I can't help but have this vision of like, you know, when the lights suddenly shut off, you can't see anything. It's fully dark everywhere. All distractions are eliminated. And the first things that you see are those flickers of light that pop up. I feel like as a community and as a people, like the source that calls out to us to protect us and the unity that we summon amongst each other, like those are the only things I can see. Everything else is blurred out. It's like the darkness is upon us. I had this vision as we were talking. I'm like, yeah, like the world shut off. The darkness came upon us, and then the flickers of light is like this connection, like you're describing, this sense of connection to the source. We are being drawn from the river. We are taking ourselves out. We are redeemed. We are being redeemed, and we are united through this sense of a connection to the source.
It's
to
the
God
story
Himself
of the
saying,
Jewish people.
you know, you will be protected. You know, Hashem Yishmor.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing, and that's all I can see. Yeah. Everything else is blurred out. Those are the first flickers of light.
Beautiful.
That, you know.
Yeah, it really takes us all back to our biblical ancestors, to like the Jews, who we are and how we've gotten here, like where we've come from.
Choshech. We are the light moving through it.
Wow.
We gotta end on that. Come on.
I think you guys gotta write a song about that.
Now I'm fireproof, fireproof. in Morocco in another space and time. I found a place to pray, hide away, pathway to the sky. I was playing games with a tiger till flames from my mama's eyes filled the room, but I was not consumed. Looked at my hand, it was water, frozen, but I come back stronger. I was drawn from the river by Pharaoh's daughter. Thank God, ain't nothing but the love that saved me. When I was lost in my solitude, I found my gratitude. Every fire I walked through the flames I could hear you. Rise up brand new. Yeah, yeah. Now I'm fireproof. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now I'm fireproof. Every fire that I walk through, bring it. The pain that made me and the love that saved me. When I was lost in my solitude, I found my gratitude. Every fire I walked through the flame I could hear you. Rise up brand new. And now I'm fireproof. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now I'm fireproof. Every fire that I walk through, thank God. Every fire that I walk through, thank God, thank God. Now I'm fireproof.
Yes.
Right.